So I'll call this meeting to order. The Affordable Housing Trust. The first thing on the agenda is to approve the previous minutes. Did everyone have a chance to look at them?
Yep. Grace?
You did?
Yeah, can I just get you to spell my name correctly? It's Jeannie, Jeannie. It's spelled without the I. If you could correct that, that'd be good.
I'm going to make that change in real time because I just want to submit these. Oh, the ones I have do have it spelled Jeannie
I don't.
Brooks.
That's weird.
Do you have the one for Tuesday, January 9th? It was wrong in the ones.
No, I don't. I beg your pardon. You did correct it. I've got the old one. Yeah. Okay, good.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, because I looked at that and it was spelled
It's
correct.
a common problem. I've had it all my life.
Yeah.
Same here with mine.
Yeah. I always have to say Jeannie with the light brown hair. It happens at least twice a week. I guarantee you. I'm going to go to the doctors tomorrow and I guarantee you they're going to come out and say Janine. And I will just say Jeannie because I'm fed up with hearing it.
It's phonetic.
After 74 years of it, I've had enough.
It doesn't look anything like Janine. See, I am Scottish, so
7 years at high school, every year on the list, this class list, it said Janine Toon. That was my maiden name. Every freaking year for 7 years. Excuse me.
It's okay. Yeah, just because this is taped. Oh, is it
Oi.
taped?
Oh, sorry. Whoop. With apologies to anybody whose ears are burning, I beg your pardon.
No one's on it except for us bunnies. So any other edits? Any edits to the minutes?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from the January 9th meeting?
I'll make a motion
Okay,
to
so
approve the
moved.
minutes from January 9th.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. This is remote, so I have to do roll call. Jeannie,
Aye. Or yes, whatever you
Brian,
prefer.
Aye.
Maureen,
I'll abstain. I
and
wasn't.
Kathy, aye. So it's 3, 1 is abstention. Okay. So the second thing was treasurer's report. Do you have a treasurer's report, Brian?
I do not. Nothing's changed since our last, or actually for a couple of months. Grace, I'm not sure if you saw the email that Joe had sent to Kenny asking for an update. They were focused on the getting ready for the town meeting, but I think that's behind them now. And if we could get the balances that are our accounts as well as the CPC funds, I could then update the report. Is that something you could do? I'm not sure if you've done in the past. It kind of sounds like you might not have access in the past.
I should have access. I'm not certain whether I have access to Affordable Housing Trust accounts, but I can arrange that.
Okay. And Grace, I'll send to you, at one point in time, identify the account numbers as I believe them to be, that I was pulling together. So I'll send that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian, a question. The money that was approved at town meeting, has that gone into our account?
That I don't know. And that's one of the questions I do want to see. It doesn't sound like it happens rapidly.
But do we have to request it or doesn't?
No.
Okay.
But I think there's a gap between the approvals and then the accounting and the account updates catching up to it. I don't know that for fact, but that was my sense. And then also too, interest in some other activities are not done immediately.
Okay.
Anyone that has money coming in or interest or investments should have a monthly update from the town account.
Yeah.
We get a financial report every month. And it really should go out to all the departments, boards, and committees that deal with investments and income.
Maureen, is that something I could ask Kenny to put me on the distribution of?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll do that. And what's it called, Maureen?
It's the end of the month report. You should, at the end of the month, every department should get a notice of what they've spent and what they've brought in,
Okay.
or any
Joe-
investment interest.
Okay. Joe is joining the call and he has his hand up. Joe, did you?
Hi, I just wanted to add, through Vadar access, upstairs should have access to all those on more of a immediate basis, besides Kenny's reports. The only thing is that monthly investment, we'll have to work with Jessica on that and the trust commission. That on a monthly report is not specifically available. For the Affordable Housing Trust, those funds, I'd have to work with both Jess and Kenny to find out how those are separated and how interest is reported on a monthly basis.
What is the trust? What is the group that you mentioned? You mentioned
The trust fund commissioners.
Okay. And they oversee, they sort of look at all trusts, including ours?
I believe they do, but I have to double check to make sure that they also oversee the investments for the Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay.
Joe, aren't those funds just for like the Rustine and things like that?
That
So-
was my impression, yeah.
We're in charge of.
They have an expanded set of funds, and that's where why I just want to confirm with Kenny and Jess, because if the Affordable Housing Trust is basically just sitting in an account getting accrued interest, there may be other things that we'd want to do. The trust fund commissioners have indicated that they can invest funds from other groups that are not necessarily those funds that are the trust funds. And he's, I'm referring to conversation that I had with Bob Fleming as far as even opening it up to outside groups. So I'm just not quite sure as far as whether Kenny has the Affordable Housing Trust funds as a separate account, or whether or not they were also having some sort of oversight with the trust fund commissioners.
Oh, I was always under the impression that it would be like the OPEB, and I thought there was an Affordable Housing Trust Fund too that was separated.
And it may be separated, but the investment of those may be overseen. And that's what I just want to double check.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Can you double check that and get back to Brian?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and Brian can let us know. If he will, that's a different story, but he could let us know.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing I had, and Michael's back. The next two items under general business were town report and regional housing coordinator report. But I think that we have those sort of covered under different agenda items. Josipa, we have you at the end giving the CMRPC update. And then I think, Michael, you'll be commenting on just a lot of the other issues as they come up. Is there anything outside of what's on the agenda that you would like to report on?
No, I don't have anything additional. Like you said, the rest of the items of the agenda I'll be commenting on. Just a reminder that the 40B is still ongoing. And so the next meeting on that is next Wednesday.
Okay. And there's a 1 month extension. Have they asked for any more extensions?
There are no additional extensions that have been requested.
Okay. So when is it supposed to be wrapped up? I mean, if there's no more extensions?
May is when the public hearing deadline expires.
Okay. Okay, so jumping into the agenda, Discussion of inclusionary zoning and accessory dwelling bylaw changes for annual town meeting. Michael, do you want to give a quick update on that?
Yeah, I'll just mention that, you know, obviously this was circulated to the trust just for your review. The trust had requested that the planning board consider these two items to be placed on the warrant. So we went ahead and created a draft of each bylaw, submitted it to the planning board for their review, and planning board went ahead and requested that they be placed on the warrant. So they are currently on the warrant. I mean, they're basically as they were discussed previously. So I don't know how much detail you want to get into the bylaws themselves. We will go ahead and schedule public hearings as is required through the planning board for these bylaws. And so I would suggest that in the meantime, if the trust members could review the bylaw language for each. If you have any comments or suggestions kind of going into the public hearings, let me know, and I'll get that information over to the planning board when they are reviewing this ahead of town meeting.
Kathy?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Brian? No, that's okay.
So I'd seen the bylaws a couple of weeks ago, and one comment I had was about inhabitants of the ADUs. And what I had seen was related to family members or caretakers. There's one other, I'm drawing a blank on that.
Yeah, family members, I think.
Yeah, and I was concerned, I'm not sure if my comments were, if people reviewed them, if they thought they should also be changed, but I am concerned that it limits the flexibility in the use of that unit for whoever would choose to invest in such an ADU, because the cost could be, and I'm just ballparking, $150,000, $200,000, $250,000. And if it's a short term, no one ever knows what that need might be. But for instance, a caretaker, and hopefully it works out well and it's a long term. But at the end, something will happen, and they may no longer need that. And I'm concerned about then the limit that would be able to finance that, mortgage, property, taxes, interest. And I think that I had seen some other language where the primary unit has to be the property owner, but then therefore by that restraint, they have, we would hope, an interest in putting the right people into that ADU. And I thought that was a good way to try to make sure the right people are dwelling in that unit. So I'm not sure if there's any further discussion that took place after I had made those comments.
There was discussion that took place, and there was a member of both of these votes were unanimous, by the way, which was different than they were when we brought them up the meeting before. There was concern by some members who were very enthusiastic about the ADUs, about how that would impact the vote if basically anyone could put accessory dwelling in their backyard and rent it out. I think there was great concern, and I think what one of the members of the planning board was sort of thinking is that this is something that needed to be sorted out, and since it's on the agenda this time, we leave it on the agenda and then sort it out at a later date and figure out how to make it work. You know, that's been an issue in other towns as well. Yes, Jeannie?
I totally agree with Brian. I think it's short-sighted to say you can only have a family member in there, because what happens when the house is being sold?
Yeah.
You are then restricting the buyers you can find, because you're telling them you can't have anybody living in there unless they're a family member. But I think making the restriction that the primary dwelling has to be the owner-occupier really does, I think Brian's put it very well, it really does solve the issue. I think because if you're a family living in a single family house, you don't want some crazy, 20-somethings partying all night long in an ADU, because that's not going to really gel with your family life.
Yep.
So, or if you're an older couple, you don't want, I certainly wouldn't want it. That's why I live in a 55 and over development.
That's probably something that we could, at the public hearing, and I'm staring at Michael as I'm saying this, that we can bring up. Because I think if we, the warrant will be set, but you can make changes on the floor if they're in the parameters. I forgot the four corners of the warrant item itself, and I think that one would be. We would talk to the moderator beforehand to make sure. But I think that's a valid point. Just one of the members of the planning board has an ADU. I mean, as it is configured now, which has to be attached to the home. And so, it's an issue that, we as a planning board are very well aware of, because what happens, his parents are elderly, what happens next? And as more and more of these goes up, there's a thriving underground market for renting out ADUs to, you can't do it, above board, but they're, again, it's a thriving underground market right now.
Just
So
so
I
that-
think, yeah,
just
yeah,
so
Maureen?
that I'm on record, I would agree with Brian and Jeannie also.
Okay.
But I don't know if we can change the language or not before town meeting, but maybe make amendments on the town meeting floor
Yeah.
once we determine what it is we're looking for.
Brian, you
Well,
put
and,
your hand up again?
I know I'll be talking with town council about the bylaws tomorrow as well, so I might get some additional feedback.
Okay.
So Kelly, will there be a public hearing prior to the town meeting? That,
Yeah.
so,
I believe there has to be under zoning, that there has to be a public meeting before town meeting.
mhm.
Yeah.
So we could have an opportunity then to clarify many different pieces, and such as how many bedrooms are limited. One bedroom, that's another way to try to control this. Square footage, the lot size.
Well, I think
Yeah, I know.
there already is a square footage limitation, I believe, in the bylaw.
Not
I
over
know
1,000
some towns
square
are-
feet, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is
So-
a pretty good size unit.
What is it, Maureen?
It's not over 1,000 square feet.
So it's not something you're gonna fit a family of, four in, it'll be crammed. If you put a lot of people in it, but it's not huge. So Jessica, were you gonna say something, or?
No, I was just going to say, I know, Brian, some towns are having difficulties with the verbiage like that, and I know that they are proposing I know, like, for example, like Auburn is proposing that they do an owner occupied. I think the maximum is, I think they're doing the maximum is 850 square foot, things along that line. Yeah, so that's what they're doing for their bylaws that way.
Okay.
I mean, they're selling whole houses under 1,000 square feet.
Mm.
So that's a pretty good sized unit. And I
Very few in Upton, very few
Oh,
houses
well,
small
oh.
to build in Upton. So,
The most recent bylaw, as it stands now, is that the one we have that was sent to us? Okay.
Yes.
I think so, yes.
so we'll let folks know when the public hearing is. I don't think, Mike, we're not going to be scheduling the public hearings tonight, right?
No.
Yeah, it's got to wait a little while on that. So, I expect them to happen in like March or April, early April, March. Okay. And okay, so we'll see what comes out of that, and then we can talk to the moderator about it. Any other comments on the bylaw request? Okay. Just one more thing on that. If everybody could make sure that it's on their calendar, town meeting is on their calendar, because we are going to need two things. We're going to need votes, but we're also going to need people who have different constituencies who can speak to this, can get up and show their support of it. And I think everybody on this committee has a different, constituency that we speak to and that listens to us. So I think, we all have value in speaking to this when it comes on the town meeting floor. Because I think when people look at affordable housing, anything that mentions that, it's something that gets people like all in a lather.
It's going to be interesting to see how the vote goes in Milton tomorrow.
Oh, I know.
Oh, that's another one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite telling.
Yep. Okay, so the next thing is I pull down the planning boards. We don't want the planning board's agenda. We want Affordable Housing Trust agenda. So the next thing on the agenda is authorization to submit request for determine of applicability RDA for demolition of 28 Harvard Avenue North. Michael, I'm just going to punt that to you to sort of go over.
Yeah, I'm looking for authorization from the trust for me to go ahead and submit the request for determination of applicability to the Conservation Commission for the demolition of the house. That's just it's a required step because of the wetlands on the property to go before Concom and submit this filing. So I'm offering to do that on behalf of the trust to submit that paperwork and get that underway. So I just need the trust authorization to do that on your behalf.
We had, just to sort of add something to that, Michael and I talked about that earlier today. We had spoken about that and actually voted on it at the last meeting. But the way that it was structured is that we had to make the formal request. And so what I would like to do is make a motion to authorize Michael to, request the, to authorize the request for determination. And then I think it comes up later here. But to, for Michael and Joe, just to, once we look at the the demolition, I think it's an RFQ. I'm not sure exactly what's going out, but I would just like to authorize them to do it so we can get it done. So I don't think we need to approve, and what has to deal with the 28 Hartford Avenue North, I don't think we have to.
Yeah, Kathy, just looking to get you consensus from the trust to get go-aheads on these things. I'll probably still want to get your signature, Kathy, on documents, but just sort of make sure we're all on the same page as far as when these things are going on, when they're happening. If things are driven by staff, I just want the trust to be fully informed as to what we're doing. And I don't want it to ever seem like staff is going ahead and doing something without the trust approval or the knowledge of it. So so I'm just treading lightly on that. I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. That's why I'm just having it all spelled out tonight for the most part.
And then as far as the demolition itself goes, I think at the last conversation we had, the last meeting we had, we discussed, there was a question of whether, I don't know if it was an RFP process or if we had to go to pick someone off the state bid list. Has there been any determination made on that?
We were talking about, Joe, yeah, if you want to go ahead, but we were talking about just myself, Joe, police chief, and Dennis, DPW director, just all the different necessary items that might be required within a demolition that might increase the price, which would make that part of a consideration. So, Joe?
So we would be doing what's called an request for quotes process. It's there's two different ways we can do it under 30B and then Chapter 149, which are both procurement laws. 149 addresses construction, which demolition is considered construction. And the town in the past did this request for quote process, both for what is now known as the gravel lot on Grove Street, as well as the former structure that was adjacent to Ristine. So Town Council already has a draft. Based on yesterday's staff meeting, I'll be adding some other items such as the party bidding for demolition would also be responsible for lead removal. This is something that Pat told us that it was done for the building next to Racine. So I'll be just looking back at that document just to pull the same language. And I had a phone call with town council today to go over the request for quotes, and I'll be able to finish up the draft the end of the week. But we do want to then make sure that we get in front of conservation so we know what they're going to require, because whatever they require, we're going to then also be putting in the request for quote documentation. They should be responsible for installing the erosion control, basically the implementation of some of the criteria that conservation would likely require, rather than us sort of doing that erosion control work in advance. So, and when we did the gravel lot on Grove Street, they took care of all of the erosion controls as well, so that we're not asking for anything that we didn't require from other demolition projects that the town has done.
Do we know that building has lead on it? Or just assuming because
given
of
the
error?
age,
Yeah.
it's a educated guess.
Okay.
But you know, especially anything that then built it, and it was built in 52, and anything that could have been painted in the 60s and 70s, it's pretty much a good assumption.
Okay. And as
Will it
far
not
as,
have asbestos as well?
yeah, that was my,
That's we'll be having them do an assessment. Pat had gone in previously and didn't notice any flooring that would have contained asbestos, but we'd have to do a couple tests in the walls to make sure there isn't insulation that included asbestos. We've
And I
had
know-
a lot of
yeah, plaster,
eyes.
yeah.
Yeah. We've had a lot of eyes in the building anyways, and as Kathy knows, back now, geez, time is flying. 6 to 9 months ago, there was a small leak that was starting to develop in the oil tank, and using town manager budget funds, worked with the fire department to remove it. There was no spill, and it was a concrete floor, so we didn't have any concerns as far as any contamination, since when the people moved out, the tank was fairly low, nearly empty.
But but testing for asbestos, like a plaster, and appropriate disposal will be part of the RFQ.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And then just as a note there, there's also, you know, I was walking by it the other day. There's also, I'm channeling Brian here, who uses this as date night. I was just using this exercise when I was walking the loop. It's also, there's a sort of an outbuilding there, I think, that needs to come down. It's a small shed out back.
Yes.
That should be, you know, probably included in that, because I know these things have to include all of it. So is this something else that we can, you know, just to facilitate? I think you've talked about it a lot, and we know that it's an imminent hazard, and we've been really pushing at it a long time. We have the funds from the CPC to do it. Is this something else that we can just authorize the town to finalize this and get it out?
My recommendation would be to at least schedule a meeting, even if it was for 5 minutes, and virtual, just
Okay.
to authorize once you see the RFQ and we sort of walk through it. I think, and this is what even staff we discussed, the RDA should be pretty simple. Mike and I have a good idea what should happen. And if what should happen, there shouldn't be any surprises.
Yeah.
However, if some other requirement is there, I'd want to at least bring that in front of the trust in case it has an impact on cost.
Okay.
I think this is going to be in the $25K ballpark.
Okay.
When all's said and done. But I'd want to have at least a vote from the trust once you have a chance to see it, And again, if it was something we just pulled together fairly quickly, at least then to get it out on the street,
Yeah.
I'd prefer to have that.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can do it. I mean, you know, I think if it's a virtual meeting, I mean, most of us, you know, can, you know, if you send it out, you know, and even if people are away, you know, they can
Yeah.
individually let me know.
Kathy,
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be something we can easily do at the next meeting unless unless we're not meeting for a while. We can discuss that because I am aiming to get it on for the Conservation Commission's February 28th meeting.
Oh,
So should know shortly after that what the requirements are.
okay. So it's going to take, and okay. And how long does it take them to make a decision on this type of thing?
On something like this, you know, I don't have a lot of familiarity with that board, but I doubt it would last into another meeting. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. We have the survey of the property that will be available to them. My conversations with Mary Overholt, the conservation agent, seemed pretty confident that really they just want erosion controls set up more than anything. And like Joe said, unless they throw us a curveball and add something on top of it, you know, we want to be ready to address that. But I don't think it's not something that they're going to require like peer review or something like that.
Okay. So it can probably wait till the next meeting then.
Yeah, I'm hoping like it can be one and done on the 28th. Obviously, we don't have control over that, but I'm hopeful.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions on the demolition, the endless process for the demolition of 28 Harvard Avenue North? We're almost there. We're almost there. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is submit application to the CPC for request of $15,000. Michael and I also discussed that earlier today. But Michael, do you want to get into it and then I'll interject?
Oh, yeah. So this was because of the article on the warrant that's requesting a $15,000 transfer from CPC to the Affordable Housing Trust. So obviously, any CPC funds, we need to submit an application to that board for that. The $15,000 is basically we're viewing as a reimbursement of the money that was originally given back, which I'm forgetting how much that was. So like the money that was dedicated or left over from 2012 for the Affordable Housing Consortium, or whatever the title of that previous iteration of this trust was. That money had to be given back to CPC because it was not spent and couldn't be allocated for the purposes of the most recent housing production plan. So this is basically a request to receive that money back that you essentially had to give back.
I thought, just to interrupt for a second, I thought that I thought we were talking about two separate things. We were talking about the 7,000 in change, and I'm staring at Brian now, because he would know the exact number that came back, you know, was from 2012 before. And then I thought this 15,000, I think it was more like 10,500, was to pay the remainder of CMRPC's bill for the current housing production plan that was just completed.
Yes, so the two things going on, right? So we do have an outstanding invoice from CMRPC. Again, I think that was in part of your meeting materials, which is the 10,500, which is what you're talking about. That is, you know, we're requesting that the trust pay that so that we can pay CMRPC the money to the road for the completion of that plan. Then it was, this is sort of like the holdover. We've had a lot of conversation, discussion about that 7,000, I think it was number. That money, as of I think the last meeting, got sent back to CPC. And the reason, again, why that was sent back to CPC is because that money could not be authorized to be spent on the recent iteration of the housing production plan, because that money was specifically identified for something else back in 2012. So I think the $15,000 was just Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. That was just a number, just a placeholder.
It was a placeholder.
Yeah.
But that would have to wait for the fall town meeting now, correct?
No, I don't think so. It's it can go forward now.
We can request 15,000 from the CPC without town meeting approval?
15,000.
No,
it's on the warrant.
Oh, it's on the warrant. Okay.
It's a placeholder.
Okay. So I have another question, and Maureen may, and then I'll turn over to you, Brian. Maureen may be able to answer it. I was at a meeting. I wasn't on the Affordable Housing Trust at the time, but it was my understanding that the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Board, and the Affordable Housing Trust all agreed to pay a portion of the CMRPC bill for the housing production plan. And my question is, Maureen, do you recall that? The selectmen saying they would pay for?
A portion, yes.
Yeah. So my thing is, I would think that would be like 5, 5, and 5. I think that the planning board put some hours into it, which is why the amount is now 10,500, which leaves 10,500 to be split between the Board of Selectmen and the housing production plan. I mean, I would rather use our remaining funds at this point for housing production, not for, I mean, we're obligated to pay for it. It was a very valuable exercise, very valuable plan. CMRPC did a great process, but I'd rather have the selectmen do their part too. So, it can go under us and then we can seek reimbursement from the selectmen. Is that how it would work?
Well, that's up to Joe, but I would think that we would split the bill and we would process a bill payment and you would process a bill payment.
Okay.
And then
Kat,
Yeah.
Through the chair, Kathy, I would have to do some research to find out, because this is the final bill. So I know we already processed bills.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any other Affordable Housing Trust funds that were used for the initial set of invoices. So we'd have to just do a reporting on what's been billed currently to find out what the breakdown is.
Yeah. Because I think the total plan was 15,000, and I think
right.
and I think that, and I don't believe, so if there's 10,000 left, 10,000 change left, I think that's both our share and the selectmen's share. I think the original, I think the original part was in terms of hours. The planning board dedicated hours, not cash. Yeah.
Well, I mean, because we want to be able to pay it, if the Affordable Housing Trust can move to pay up to that amount, and allowing for the town manager to determine the appropriate division of costs, that way we don't have to wait until the next meeting to have the trust then authorize the invoice as well, and we can then figure that out. I just have to work with Treasurer Collector's office to find out the accounts for the previous invoices that were paid. I remember talking to Paul Delaquila that the remaining balance was to be paid by the Affordable Housing Trust. So maybe there's a portion of that 10K that we do share. I just would need to look that up.
Or maybe Paul misunderstood, because we were just forming when Paul left, so so I don't, so okay. And Brian, you wanted to say something? I'm sorry.
Yes, a couple things. One is the just so we're clear, Michael's very close to the balance that was returned, or so it has been returned. So that's good to hear. And that was $7,518.61. That's the amount we've been tracking for a couple of months. And then, Kathy, if we go into the CPC, and us still being new to the process and not with it, I think it would be helpful for us to go with a very specific request to the CPC. And I'm not sure a specific request exists right now. One could be to get that amount returned to us, $7,518. That I think that would be kind of appropriate. But in the absence of that, I don't think we have a real requirement. And my view would be is to not go again to the CPC until we have a really defined need and also a track record.
I think, Kathy, through the chair, I think that's reasonable to amend the ask to the 7,518. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with Brian on that too, Mike.
I do too.
I think, now, Joe, I'm going through the chair. I'd like to ask Joe. Wouldn't the town accountant have all the expenditures that are against that project?
Oh, absolutely. I just don't know them off the top of my head, so I just have to have Jess run a report.
Well, that's not up to Jess. I would think the town accountant would have to run the report.
Jessica has access as well, and I can get that within five minutes of me asking.
Okay, that would be good.
So just as a clarification for my fuzzy brain, so the 15,000 that is the placeholder on the warrant, that is not to pay CMRPC for the recently completed plan, is to get that 7,300 back that we returned to this. Okay. Joe?
So, sorry if I'm about to confuse it more. It's a yes and a no. So, because coming out of the last Affordable Housing Trust, and we had this discussion about the 7,000, what happens to that? I just put in a placeholder for 15 to allow for us to have this meeting to figure out, do we want to do the, because we did have to pay for the CMRPC invoice. Do we want to just do the 7,000 just to pay us back? Do we want to do a little bit more? Or do we want to, as Brian said, just wait until the fall? Because if it's 10,000 or a little mixture or a little less, the trust has that money. So it's not going to really impact things. So we can easily, if the trust says, you know what, let's wait until the fall, that extra money above the 7 isn't going to make a difference. And I think Maureen said it as well. If there's no pressing, then wait until the fall. It was just a placeholder because if we didn't have it, this would be a moot discussion because we wouldn't even be able to do it.
Then how are we going to pay CMRPC?
With existing funds that you have in the trust.
And right now we have 100, not seeing the final, but I believe it's $136,651. And we'll confirm that shortly once we get the account balances.
Yeah,
right.
I would not mind, and I will defer to Brian and Maureen on this one. I would not object to going and requesting from CMRPC the exact amount that we gave back to pay, because that was to do a housing production plan. And this is all fresh in people's minds. I agree with what Brian and Maureen said about, we made it very clear when we went before the CPC that we weren't going to come back until we had a track record and a plan. So I do have a little bit, I do feel a little bit reluctant to go to them, but this one is an exchange. We gave you $7,300. Now we're taking it back to pay for its original intended use. But I will defer to the rest of the committee, Jeannie, Brian, and because I'm not wed to that. Thoughts? Yes, Brian?
My view is if we start, because this is 2011, I think this is the town meeting, or 2012.
Yeah.
I would like to not have to explain if anyone asked a question about that, because that's so long. Also, questions like, what have you been doing?
Yeah.
So it's gone. It's at the right place, and so we did the right thing. If we could avoid talking about that, I think that's good.
Okay.
And we do have a legitimate need because we're going to pay anywhere up to 10,500, whatever it is. If we paid the full amount, not the same we are. So that we should be, that's a new need, and that's a valid and concrete need. I do like the idea, Joe said, let's wait because hopefully we'll have some more ideas and that need funding in the fall.
Okay. I'm
That's my
comfortable.
viewpoint.
Maureen, what do you think?
I would go along with Brian.
Okay, and Jeannie's nodding. That's why
Yeah, I agree
you-
too.
I can't see Maureen. Maureen's like just a name on the screen. So, okay, all righty. So you can remove that placeholder, Joe.
Okay.
We
We don't have to take a vote on that, right?
You should still
I mean-
vote on paying up to the 10,500 for the invoice, pending what Joe was able to find for, I guess, commitment from the selectmen for the other half, Joe?
Correct, or town manager.
Okay. I will hear a motion, but I would like the motion to, I do think that we need to, I don't want to just be the default. Like, we couldn't find anything that's already paid for, so pay the whole amount. I want the selectmen, to go before the selectmen to pay their share.
And Joe, you'll check on that, right? I believe.
Yeah, I
believe we voted it.
yeah, I'll do some legwork. So we'll let CMRPC know that we'll get final approvals next month to pay the invoice.
Okay.
Okay. So do we need a motion now, or can we wait till the next meeting?
I would do personally, I would do a motion now and get it done with.
Okay, Maureen, then make it.
Well, I would move that we push off to the fall the bill for CMRPC once we get all the information.
I think we were
No, it's
looking
not.
for a motion on the payment of the CMRPC's invoice.
Well, we can do, all right, I'll move that we push off to the fall town meeting, the payment of the CMRPC bill, and making sure that the selectmen pay their share and affordable housing pays their share. How's that?
Yes, Brian.
The work has been done in quite a while ago. I think we approved it in August or September at the selectmen meeting, the plan. So it was done prior to that. And there was a good report, and there are partners. So I'd like to pay that as quickly as possible. And then maybe, Maureen, seek reimbursement from the CPC for what we end up paying.
Oh,
In the
all right.
fall.
so
Yeah.
it would come out of the Affordable Housing Trust.
The portion that. we
Initially,
are-
yes, yeah.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
You want to accept
portion-
that as an amended motion?
I will amend the motion to read that we pay the bill out of the Affordable Housing Trust to be reimbursed partially by, or half by the selectmen. And it would be at the town fall meeting that we would do this.
Could I make a friendly amendment
Oh,
to?
you could do anything you want.
I'm trying to follow
Convoluted.
process here, man, a friendly amendment that we will pay up to $10,500 to satisfy the CMRPC invoice, with the condition that the selectmen,
Pay their share.
pay any part that, pay the
Their
share that
share.
they're committed to.
Yeah.
Does that work? And then we'll,
That works for me.
Kathy, I like that. are we sure it's 10,500 is the remaining amount? I just wonder, should we add a little bit more just to make sure that we cover the full invoice? If we're sure, then I'm fine with that.
I think that was the number that was given.
I think that's what was on the
Yes.
information that was sent, yeah.
I'm
Okay.
looking at it now. Yes.
Okay.
All right, good.
So do I hear a second?
I
And
second
Grace,
it.
you
Charlie,
wrote this down, right? Okay, so, and Joe, you kept putting your hand up and taking it down. Do you have any comments, or did we address the issue that you had?
With how the last motion was fine, you addressed it. I was going to say I can get you exact amounts and then you can just consider it at the next meeting, but this is good too.
Yeah, okay. So the motion is made and seconded. So roll call, Jeannie,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Maureen,
I,
and I vote aye, so it is unanimous. Okay, the next thing is the RFQ for the Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan. Receival of bids, is that a word? Receival?
No, receipt.
Receipt, yeah. I'm looking at it, it's like, no.
I don't think word caught it. That's not a word.
Yeah,
But sometimes I accidentally add to dictionary things that aren't words.
no, it's actually kind of a cool word,
like
but
Cassie,
it's like, yeah.
the
So,
bizarro version of your last name that I keep typoing, which also isn't a word. I mean, I've been trying to track down consultants for this, and they're hard to come by. For whatever reason, I just can't get. I mean, I had one firm, as you see, bid for it, other than CMRPC, is a private firm out of Philadelphia. You know, they came in within the proposed budget. I'm not super comfortable going to a Philadelphia consulting firm for a very Massachusetts specific topic. So I would loop Joe into this as well. Hey, Joe, I know you wanted us to shop around for other consultants. I did. I've sent it out to I don't know how many different consultants that we know, obviously locally. And everybody, you know, I sent it to BSC, I sent it to LDS, I sent it to Jen Goldstein, Judy Barrett, but all the heavy hitters in the state, and no bids. So I mean, it would be my suggestion, Joe, if you disagree, let me know, is to proceed with CMRPC at this point.
We made our attempts. So everyone clearly has a lot of work to do, and I don't think it's worth waiting around. And CMRPC will do a good job.
And I did talk to.
I just wanted to let you all know that you guys are allowed to directly have contract with CMRPC, and I can send the chapter that it's on. It's I think on chapter 30B, section 1, B and B9. So you guys are allowed to just hire us directly. So I just wanted to set that as a reminder.
and in general, yeah, I think there was a desire to, see what else was out there. I think with CMRPC, they're all, they're doing a lot of work on surrounding towns too. So it's they kind of know how this market works. So I support, bringing them on.
And through the chair, I talked to Trish Settles yesterday for CMRPC, and I had a very frank conversation with her about it, just because our concern of CMRPC is doing a lot of work for us, as well as they're doing a lot of work for other towns. I just wanted to make sure that they can still honor that bid, as well as they have the bandwidth to actually support us, and whether or not, and I didn't want them to feel obligated to that. You know what I mean? If they did not feel that they, because it's been a while since they sent that original bid. Just wanted to make sure that everything was on the up and up, or I should say everybody's on the same page as far as expectations and such. And I, again, wanted to make sure they had the bandwidth. She assured me that, you know, they're hyper aware of all the work that they're doing, and are excited to continue working with Upton with these types of projects. So.
And
was
I
it.
think what's just to add on, we've expanded so much. Just saying, like how it was before to like now, they just consistently have been hiring amazing planners and amazing people in our team. So it's just it's great. It's been great to work with everybody.
So you're now a senior person there, right?
I wish.
Yeah.
But no, it's just been such a niche place to work for. It's been amazing. I have no complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
What is Trisha's role at CMRPC now?
She is the executive director for the regional planning team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Janet Pierce is still heads up the agency, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she is the head of the agency, and then Trish kind of foresees more of like the regional planning side of things. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's like regional, and then we have transportation, and then there's a green team, which is more of climate resiliency.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it's split up.
Okay. So is there any do we have to vote on this one, or can we just approve it? I think it's approval of a yes, Brian?
Michael, is it 15? What was the response? Is it $15,000? It's in line with that?
Yes.
Okay.
15, yeah.
And then just for expected timeline, is that stated as to once they initiate the work and when that would be, the initiation and then completion?
I'll have to get an updated timeline. Originally, they quoted no later than June 30th, 2024, but I think that'd probably get pushed at least 2 months out.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, it'd be great
before you, as the trust, enter into the contract, we'll have that all reviewed and timeline set ahead of endorsing the contract and finalizing prior to officially starting.
Okay. And that 15,000 was appropriate at the last town meeting for the actual. Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we take a vote on it? I'll make a motion that we accept CMRPC's proposal for completing the Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan and the terms and conditions. So, Michael will determine the terms and conditions and bring back the final document to the Affordable Housing Trust for approval, final approval and signature. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Second? Oh, sorry.
No, third, whatever.
Yeah, I make very wordy motions. So, okay, so any more discussion or, okay, let's vote.
Your motions are precise. They have
They're
well
very
detailed.
detailed.
Nobody can say she didn't say this.
Yeah, next time I'm gonna start adding bullet points, So Jeannie.
Aye.
Okay, Brian,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
and Catherine is aye, so it's unanimous. Okay, the next one, and just to let folks know, we have about 25 minutes left in this meeting, because then the planning board, we jump onto the planning board. Update and RFQ review for 28 Hartford Avenue North. Again, we want to get this sucker out. So I did make a comment to Michael today based on conversations at our last meeting, is that we wanted to, I don't know if people read the KP Law markup of the RFQ, but I always get RFPs and RFQs mixed up.
Yeah, apologies. The agenda should say RFP, but
Okay.
we're talking about the same thing.
Okay.
It's an RFP.
But I did have the recent one that was sent through KP did not allow the option. We had talked at the last meeting, and there was general agreement that the preference will be for affordable housing, but we would not rule out selling it for non-affordable housing, purposes consistent with, you know, they basically, whoever would bid would have to pay us whatever we had invested in it. So that was not included in the RFP that KP drafted. I didn't see anything else that was left in, and I think because this body had, you know, discussed it and actually saw that as an option, because we don't want to keep, you know, if no one comes in to do affordable housing, we wanted to leave that option open. Is there any other comments on the RFP, or yeah, Brian?
Kelly, I remember that discussion, and then looking at the RFP, I didn't see that the flexibility to be able to use it for affordability, that's the preference, but then also for any other use existed. You're saying that it does not exist, right?
That
That's
does not
in the-
exist in the
Okay.
RFP, and we wanted it included in the RFP.
So will
I
we
didn't.
supposed to move forward as it is stated now?
Well, what I was going to request Michael to do is to revise it so it does say, you know, very clearly that this is the preference is. But if there is no suitable proposer, or whatever the language that Michael thinks makes sense, then we would consider selling it for non-affordable housing purposes, you know, under the chapter and verse that requires them to pay everything that we've given. But, you know, it makes it very clear, you know, to answer Jeannie's concern, that it's only if there is nobody that comes in to propose for affordable housing on that property.
Mhm.
So
I'll get that.
Michael, did
I'll-
the town lawyer make any comment about, did you actually raise that issue with the town council? Whether we can do
I
that?
can't remember if I expressed that specific question or not, but I'm definitely going to follow up after this conversation and ask that question directly. And of course, if that can be accommodated through within this RFP, we'll with the board's with the trust approval tonight, you know, we'll go forward with this iteration pending those changes. And should there be a problem with those changes that it has to come back to the board, the trust, we'll certainly do that. If there are minor changes, verbiage or what have you after tonight, I'm asking the board, the trust tonight, that it's okay to not have to bring, grammar things back to the trust. But obviously, if there is substantive changes like this that need to happen, that's going to come back to the trust for your approval. But I'm going to figure out with town council if what you're asking tonight, if that can be accommodated through this RFP, and if so, we'll again proceed with this version in its intent.
Can I ask another question? If town council says that it is possible to sell it for non-affordable housing, which, as you know, I'm not in favour of, is it possible to put into the RFP that it will be open to affordable housing bids only for the first, I don't know, 2 months or however long, and then should none emerge, then after that period of time we would open it to other potential buyers? Is that possible?
I'm no procurement expert, so that's a difficult question for me to answer. It sounds like that would have to be two different RFP processes. Like that would, I would think that if you wanted to pursue that option, it would almost be better to pursue this as affordable only, as the document, leave in the affordable, not just preference, but requirement. And then if you don't get any bids on this RFP for that exact reason, then you would then go out to what I'll call general market for purchase for a separate RFP. That would make most sense to me. Joe, what's your sense of that through the chair?
I, Sorry, Mike, so that I can make sure I accurately answer your question, can you just relay that one
Yeah.
more time?
Jeannie was just expressing a preference to incorporate some language into this RFP that basically says, should we not get any bids for the affordable component of this process? So should we go out to bid and, Habitat for Humanity doesn't apply, or no other nonprofit applies, because in order to put affordable housing, it then it acts as some sort of sunset, like after 2 months, that then the trust will entertain any potential developer for market rate purposes. My comment was to that, it sounds like the better way to go would to be just proceed with this RFP for affordable, and if that doesn't pan out, then do a separate RFP for market rate.
Jeannie was talking staggering, staggering the sort of bid process in a single RFP.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you could absolutely, well, first thing is, if you want to entertain, and this is where, essentially what you're asking for is for people to bid 2 different projects, one for affordable and one for market rate. Because the market rate, you're going to want to establish a minimum value, and for the affordable,
That's true.
realistically, you're probably looking at the whole package to see what is financially viable. They may view that they will only give the Affordable Housing Trust $10,000 because they need the rest of the value of the property as a subsidy due to construction costs. So you could absolutely develop an RFP, and then if you get no responses, you could then immediately advertise a new one for market to go right out on the street once the bid period has ended. Or you could have it as part of both, and you're essentially saying we're accepting proposals on either one of these. So I think you can make it work either ways. You wouldn't be able to do, because the bids would be due on a specific day, you wouldn't be able to sort of say, well, if we don't get any by this day, then we'll open it up for this. You'd be receiving them all together. Let's say you get one affordable housing bid and they say, besides taking the land for free, we're then going to be requesting an additional $150,000 from the Affordable Housing Trust. You may want to reject that, and then maybe you get a market rate bid that is for the minimum price we set. That may be most financially viable option for you.
And it will be up to us we could, to address Jeannie's concern too, is if nobody bids for affordable housing and someone comes in and, for market rate, but we don't like their proposal, we can throw that one out too. We don't need reasons to reject. So we are the arbiters of what's accepted. And
we need to, if we reject bids, we need to provide a reason.
Yeah.
But
if you don't like your face. No.
No, I don't think that's a good reason.
I'm getting punchy tonight. I'm sorry. It's been
We got a long way to go, Kathy.
I know. Just wait until public hearings on planning board. So what do we want to do, folks? Yes, Brian?
As we had landed last month, I think that's still the best alternative. We do have a strong preference to use this for affordable housing, but we also have an urgent need to get rid of this property. So I'd like to go out, learn about that preference, if we can put that language in, and if we can seek it that way through the RFP, I'd recommend that. Gina, I think by doing that and voicing that strong preference for affordable housing, I hope that would address your concern. So if we got one of each, and both are good, then we would go towards the affordable housing.
And we make the decisions.
Yeah, I get that. My concern is, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
We start all over again with another property. We're
Yeah.
back to square
Well,
one
no,
again,
I
aren't
mean,
we?
what we do is and Brian has expressed interest in doing this, is we work with developers to say what.
And a better property too.
Yeah, and we say, and they say, well, we need this parcel. We say, great, we'll get the parcel for you. We'll spend 400,000 on the parcel. We give it to the developer with a developer's agreement, and they put in the units. We don't do this 1, 2, 3, 4 unit stuff.
Anytime.
We need to really start addressing this issue. This is just to get it off our table. So 2 questions on this. One is, can we just finalize? I thought we had the last meeting. Can we just finalize the RFP with that change in it, Michael? The rest of the changes, the recommendations of KP Live, no problem with. But if you could just put that one thing in to open it up to, with the language that the preference will be for affordable housing.
Strong preference for affordable housing, but entertaining
Yeah.
bids for
Yeah.
market rate.
And then just get it out. Do people have any problem with that?
No.
Okay, because I'd just like to get this out. And then just a question, because I had asked Michael this and he didn't know. Could the Affordable Housing Trust ever, if this just falls flat, could we just say, here, town, we don't want it, we're defaulting on it, you take it back?
Good question.
And I'm looking at
Oh, I'm
Joe's
sorry,
little icon.
I never circled back with you on that, Kathy. I did ask Joe that question. Yeah, I believe the answer was no. Joe, can you elaborate?
Yeah, so I think the main thing is that we would be in violation of the use of public funds through CPC through not producing affordable housing. So I think it actually could be pretty significant, but there has to be a way around it. And the only thing that I could really think of is almost like the town buying it back. But you're talking about potentially then having to get town meeting approval to take $200,000 out of free cash to then buy it back for general municipal purposes, and then for us to dispose of the property, which then, could be at a loss. So
Sure.
that may also be a tough road to go down, because I think it would require town meeting approval.
So what do we have in front of us then? I mean, we have this parcel of land that we've been holding on to and spending money on that there seems to be zero interest in. So what options do we have? Are we stuck with it for eternity?
I don't think so. I know once we get this on the street, I have various networks that I'm gonna really hit the street hard with past projects I was involved with, just to at least get eyeballs. I don't think Habitat for Humanity is the only game in town. There are other developers I've worked with over the years that, at least if they're not interested, maybe they know of someone. If we're just looking for a basic project, put in a duplex, I think we can beat the bushes to get someone to at least respond between Michael and myself. So I'm always hopeful. I don't think we're going to be stuck with a property we can't develop and then are taking essentially a loss on. I think we'll be successful. I don't know why in the past no one had any eyeballs. That's the benefit for Michael and myself. We don't know what didn't work in the past, so we're just going to try again, and we're going to try our hardest to get someone to come in.
So does this board then, do we have consensus that we want that one change made and then just put it out on the streets?
Yes.
Reluctantly, yes.
Yes, okay. Okay. So can you let me know? I mean, I take it I'd have to do a final approval, like sign it or something, or can you guys just send it out?
I don't think there's an area for like the trust signature on this thing. I think we can just go live with it.
Okay. Okay. Do you think you can go live with it before the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So by the next meeting, demo will be on the street, or will be close to being on the street, but the notice of determination should be done. It'll be ready to go on the street, and this will be on the street.
That is absolutely the goal. We'll work hard to make that happen.
Okay, Grace, put that in the minutes. Except for the wiggling about, that's absolutely the goal. No, it will be done. Okay. The next thing on the agenda, but we don't have, you have like 3 minutes, Josefa, to give CMRPC's update. I'm
An
sorry.
update. Okay, no, you're good. Okay, so the ADU accessory dwelling workshops with the DLTA, which is the district local something grant. I completely missed out on what the abbreviations are. That got
Direct
approved.
basis.
So I am going to start off with next month. I'll send out the poster, but it will be an ADU bylaw draft workshop slash webinar, so that different towns and if anybody in the public or anybody along that line wants to know many information, they can reach out, talk about it in the webinar, things along that line. I know that you guys ended up emailing me on needing some help with the developers and trying to get to know them further in our email chain, if I'm not mistaken, Michael. So I'm okay with helping out with that. I just need more details. Maybe we can talk offline after this, and how I could be more of assistance. And then Berlin's story map is going online. I can send you all the link to what CMRPC's done with the Mendon story map so you can see it. And then I'm doing Grafton, and then after Grafton, I'm believing Upton's going to be next. If you all want to have a story map, which would engage in public outreach, because you guys have spent so much money on a housing production plan, but who will be reading it in terms of understanding it? So that is more so what's next on at least what I was thinking of doing, and that's my update. But feel free to email me, chime in. We can set up another appointment or another meeting discussing and how I could be more of assistance, because I know I have like 3 minutes. So I hope I did that in 2 minutes.
The ADU is very timely because of the whole issue that Brian and Maureen had brought up earlier about the language, about who was going to be living in these things. So that would be really, really useful. You know, and as far as developers go, the timing of that is perfect. I think what we wanted to do was, Brian had brought this up, of sitting down with some developers and say, what do you need us to do?
Okay.
What do you need from us so you can come in and build affordable housing? And so I think that you had talked about, working on that, Brian, and I was thinking that maybe Josefa, because of her network and listening to Joe and Mike talk, with their network, we should be able to do it. And yes, Brian, you have your hand up.
Yes, to that point, Kathy, Mike had sent a note from a Pulte rep, Mark, I'm drawing a blank, Mike. So we have scheduled March 1st to have that on the calendar. So that's Friday, March 1st at 10.
Okay, good. Yeah, he was at a planning board meeting and was very excited about this. So that's good.
Yeah. So I will definitely, if you want to send me some dates that you're available, Brian, if you want to talk online, if you all want to talk online, I'm more than happy to do so, because that's something that I have no problem with assisting with. Absolutely. This is why I'm here.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so any other things we have to discuss, or do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Point. In the annual town report, I'm not sure if it's too late, if that's already published, but if it's not, there's some, I sent a note today, a paragraph or a couple of sentences about the Orchard Street property. I think would be nice to be struck, in my opinion, out of that report.
Yeah, Brian had sent something out because the annual report for the past, ever since 2015, has included the Board of Selectmen's approval of transferring the property on Orchard Street to the Affordable Housing Trust, but nobody knows where the property is. There's no record of any action being taken. So the town meeting never, so bottom line is we don't have it. So no one
Quick
knows where it
question.
is.
When are we going to start calling it the select board?
Oh,
Now that we just got this week approval from the AG office, we can now start officially calling it select board. Sorry,
Good.
Maureen.
I've been
Good.
doing it on writing. I haven't been doing it.
It
So
just
just-
comes out naturally.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. Too long.
Just a funny thing before we hang up is I just got a note from, I used to be a consultant for CMRPC, and I just got a note from Trish Settles saying that she'd like to connect. She must have known we were talking about her. So, okay. So motion to adjourn?
We're going to set the next meeting?
Oh, next meeting. What is 2 planning board meetings from now? Michael, Grace?
It'll be the 12th, right, Chris?
Yes.
12th of
March.
March.
Okay. Does that work for people?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
All righty. So March 12th. All right. I still use a paper calendar. Okay. So motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Seconded.
Seconded.
Yep.
Jeannie,
Me.
Brian,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
and me. I unanimous. We're gone. Okay. Thank you.
Aye.